Okay, we're going to start off with this today. I'm going to do these 5 samples in the video. You need to do these 4 on your own. Then, this is just notes. They'll be on the same video. Okay, this won't take real long. I'm going to explain it a little bit different than yesterday. I had a lot of people confused yesterday. The original price of an item is $50. It's put on sale for 30% off. Find the new price of the item. Okay, we're going to use this equation, original times percent equals new. So put equals. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to circle find the what. It says go find the word find the new price. So that's what we don't know is the new price. So we're going to put X right here. And then I just got to fill out the rest of the equation. So the original price must be $50. Times the percent. So remember, it's 30% off, though. So we need to minus 30 from 100. That's 70%. Now we need to divide the 70 by 100. And 70 divided by 100 is 0.7. Okay, so I take 50 times, and it's just times. Between these two is a times operator, so 50 multiplied by 0.7 is 35, so $35. Okay, so again, if it says find the new price, then X goes here, goes last, okay? The new price of an item is $621 after it's marked up 50%. Find the original price of the item. So let's find the what? Find the original price. Circle that. So now your X isn't going to go here. It says find the original price. So original is right here at the beginning. So we start with the X. And then times. And then again, your percent, you take 100% and plus 15% because it's up. 115 divided by 100. 1.15. Okay, then we put the new price. Well, then the new price has to be $621 because I've already... Okay, now we're not going to multiply. We do the opposite of multiplying, which is to divide. Divide on both sides by the number that's multiplying the variable. And I take 621 divided by 1.15. Okay, so that's $540. Okay, next problem. The original price of an item is $550. Find the new price of the item after it's marked 20% off. Find the new price. Okay, so the new price is what I don't know. The new price is right here. So I'm going to put X right here. Okay, now the original price, I must know that. It's $550. Times the percent. Okay, so I take 100%. It's 20% off, so I minus 20%. That's going to be 80%. Now divide that by 100. 0.8. Okay, so that's what I'm going to multiply by. So 550 times 0.8. $440. Okay, next one. The new price of an item is $480 after it's marked 20% up. Find the new price of the item. So it says find the what? The new price. So where does the new price go in the equation? Right here. So X is going to be right there. It's going to be last, not first. Okay, so the original price is $480. Has to be. That's 20% up, so I take 100% plus 20%. That's 120%. So divide that by 100. That's 1.2. So times 1.2. The operations times, okay, so 480 times 1.2 is $576. Okay, the original price of an item is $300. It's marked 40% off. Find the new price. So set up the equals and locate the word find. Find right here. Find the what? The new price. So the new price means the X goes at the end after the equal sign. Okay, so I have my original price has to be the $300 times then my percent, but it's 40% off, so I need to go over here and take 100 minus 40%. That's 60%. Okay, now divide that by 100. 60 divided by 100 is 0.6. Okay. Again, just multiplying. $180. Okay, now you do the ones on the back. The formula's up here for you. So find the new price. The X goes here. Find the original price. The X goes here. Find the original price. The X goes here. There'll be a number to go in the other one. Find the new price. The X goes here. Okay. Pause the video, do those 4 problems, come back to me if you have questions. You need to do them, though. Okay, now, I'm taking a test on this next Tuesday. It's set up just like this. First thing you do when you look at a problem. First, if you don't have a dividing line, you need to make one yourself. Just underline everything. So there's nothing under the dividing line. Then if there are any parentheses, you need to circle them, but there are none in this problem. So if there are no parentheses, we're not going to multiply, okay? So remember that. Okay, now above my line, do I have any numbers that aren't in the little circles? No, we don't. So we just have the variable. The only variable I have is A. So I write A. So the first A is to the third. So no multiply, not going to multiply. So we got 3. The next A is on top of the dividing line, so that's adding. And that'd be 10. And the next A is on top, so that would be adding. And now if there's not a power, that means it's to the 1 power. So we add 1. So 3 plus 10 plus 1 is 14. A to the 14th power. Okay, so I'm going to circle that. That's the only factor I have. It's positive 14, so that's stay. So if it's stay, it stays on top. And since it's a variable, I can't really clone it, so A to the 14th is my answer. Next problem, the dividing line's here. There's no parentheses, so I am not going to multiply anything. Okay, so on top of the line, first off, on top of the line, do you have any numbers that aren't really in a bubble? Nope, you just have the variable y. Then underneath the line, you don't have any numbers that are not in a little bubble. And you have another y, but since I already have y on top, I don't need it on bottom. Okay, now y is to the 7th here. And then my other y, now we're under the line. So instead of adding, I minus 3. 7 minus 3 is 4. Okay, so y to the 4th, that's a positive 4, so that's a stay. So it stays. And there's no way I really clone a variable, so there we have it. Okay, next problem. You need a dividing line. Put one. You have parentheses too, so we need to circle that and the power outside. So any power in here has to be multiplied by 5 before I write it down here. Okay, now above the line, I don't have any numbers that aren't bubbled, but I do have a variable b. Now, this is the only b I have. It's to the second, but I don't want to write 2 down because I need to multiply 2 by 5, which is 10. Okay, that's the only b I have. That's positive, so stay. So it stays on top. Just bring it over here. It stays on top. And I can't really clone a letter, so b to the 10th is the answer. Okay, next problem. You already have the dividing line right here. Now you have a parentheses with a third outside, so anything out of there needs to be multiplied by 3. Now above the dividing line, you have a number that wasn't in a bubble, so I have a 5, and I have a variable, x. Now under the dividing line, we have a number not in a bubble, a 3, and then a variable x, but I've already written x on top, so I don't need to write it again on the bottom. Okay, so I'm set up to go with my bases. So let's do our 5 first. The 5 is to the 1, because there's nothing there. But again, that needs to be multiplied by 3. 1 times 3 is 3, so 5 is to the 3rd. Now let's do you can do the x or the 3. We'll do the 3. I kind of like to do the numbers first. Now 3 is to the 1, but since that's part of that circle, I need to take 1 times 3. 1 times 3 is 3. Okay, now the x, we have 2 of them. So the first x I do on top, there's a 10, but I got to take 10 times 3. That's 30. And my next x is on the bottom. So if it's on the bottom, we need to minus. And I see I have a 3, but I don't write 3 down because that's in the circle. So I take 3 times 3, which is 9. So 30 minus 9 is 21. Okay. Now you know all your factors. Circle all of them. That's a positive, so stay. That's a positive 21, so stay. That's a positive 3, so stay. So everything's staying in the same place. So 5 to the 3rd stays on top. X to the 21st stays on top. 3 to the 3rd stays on bottom. Okay, now I have some factors that I'm able to clone. I have 5 to the 3rd, so that's 5 times 5 times 5. That equals 125. So I replace 5 to the 3rd with 125. And then I can't clone the variable x. Then 3 to the 3rd, that would be 3 times 3 times 3, and that's 27. So I replace 3 to the 3rd on the bottom with 27. Now these two numbers here, the operation's division, so leave it alone. That's your answer. Okay, next problem. Make your very own dividing line. And then we have a parentheses just right here with a 2 outside. Okay, so on top of the dividing line for numbers that, I have a couple numbers that aren't in the little bubbles, a 6 and a 4. So 6 times 4. And then for variables, I have y. It's on there twice, I just write it once, and there's nothing under the dividing line. Okay, so let's figure out our powers. 6 is to the 1, but it's in the circle, so I need to take 1 times 2. That's 2. Then 4 to the 1. Now, I didn't put a circle around 4, so I need to just write the 1 down. I don't want to multiply 1 by anything. Okay, and then y. I got 2 y's. First y. Y is 3, so it's in the circle. 3 has to be times by 2. That product of 6 is what I write down. Then my other y, I'm still on top of the line, so that's a plus. That's 10. So 6 plus 10 would be 16. Again, I didn't multiply the 10 because it wasn't a circle. So these are my 3 factors. That's positive 2, so stay. That's positive 1, so stay. That's positive 16, so stay. They all stay on top. So 6 to the 2nd times 4 to the 1 times y to the 16. Now here are my factors. I can clone 6 to the 2nd. That would be 2 6s, so that would be 36. So 36. 4 to the 1. Now if it's 4 to the 1, you'd clone it once, and it's just 4. You can't clone a variable, so y to the 16th stays. Now, these two numbers, now the operation's multiplication. I want you to multiply them then. If the one's on top, one's on bottom, you leave them. But if they're right next to each other with a times, you times them. So it's 144 times y to the 16th power. Okay, next problem. Make your dividing line. And you have a couple parentheses. Here there's a 3 outside. And here there's another 3 outside. So anything coming out of there has to be multiplied by 3. So above the dividing line, I have a couple numbers here that aren't circled, a 3 and a 5. And what do I have for letters? What do I have for variables? I have an A and an X. Okay, so 3. 3 would be to the 1, but it's in the circle, so that means I've got to take 1 times 3. That's 3. 5 would be to the 1, so I take 1 times 3. That's 3. Now A, there's only one of them. That's good. I don't have to plus or minus after I write the first one. So it's 2. It's in the circle. 2 times 3 is 6. And X here is in the circle. 2 times 3 is 6. So here are my factors. And that's positive, so stay. That's positive, so stay. Positive, stay. Positive, stay. Okay, they all stay on top then. So 3 to the 3rd times 5 to the 3rd times a to the 6th times x to the 6th. Okay, now these are my factors. Now we're not moving them anywhere, but I can clone some of them and replace them. So 3 to the 3rd would be 3 times 3 times 3, and that's 27. So this is replaced with the number 27. 5 to the 3rd, 5 times 5 times 5, and that's 125. So that's replaced with 125. That's a variable, so leave it alone. And that's a variable, so leave it alone. Okay, now these two numbers ended up on top together, so we need to do the times operation. So 27 times 125 is 3,375. Boom. Now some of you are like, what about the bottom? You don't need a bottom filled out, okay? All right, next problem. Your dividing line's already there right here. Not a very big one, but it's there. You have a parentheses to the 4th. Now on top of the line, you don't have any numbers that aren't circled. That's circled. I had that circled, so that means it's a power. You don't write it down here yet. Okay, for variables, I have an x on top and a new variable y on bottom. So x would be to the 1, and I take 1 times 4. That's 4. And the y would be to the 1. That's still in the circle, so 1 times 4 is 4. Now that's positive, so that's a stay. That's positive, that's a stay. So they're both going to stay in the same place. And those factors are both variables, so we just leave them like they are. We don't need to clone them. X to the 4th over y to the 4th. Both variables go to the 4th power. Okay, next problem. We already have our dividing line. Have a parentheses with a 2 outside. Okay, now on top of the dividing line, I have the number 10. I have the letter A and the letter B. Beneath the dividing line, I have a number 2. I have the letter A, but I already wrote A on top, so don't write it on bottom. I have a B. It's on top already. Okay, now our 10 would be to the 1 power, but it's in this circle, so I got to take 1 times 2, which is 2. Now let's do the 2. The 2 is to the 1 power, but I got to take it times 2. 1 times 2 is 2. Now for A, there's 2 of them, so we do our top one first. I have a 4, but I got to take 4 times 2, which is 8. And there's another A. Is it on top of the line or on the bottom? If it's on top, I plus. If it's on bottom, I minus. It looks like it's on bottom, so minus, and 2 times 2 would be 4. So 8 minus 4 is 4. Okay, now B. Here's my first B. Start on top. to the second, but we got to take 2 times 2, which is 4. Then there's my other b. It is beneath the dividing line, so it will be minus. Now it would have a 1 exponent, but that's in the circle, so I got to take 1 times 2, which is 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. So I have 10 to the second, a to the fourth, b to the second, 2 to the second. That's positive, so that's stay. That's positive, so that's stay. That's positive, so that's stay. And that's positive, that's stay. Everything stays in the same place. Don't move anything. 10 to the second times a to the fourth times b to the second. And on bottom we have 2 to the second. Okay, now do I have any factors that I could replace? Well, 10 to the second can be cloned. 10 times 10, that's 100. 2 to the second can also be cloned. 2 times 2, and that's 4, but that belongs on the bottom because it's 2 to the second's on the bottom. Then those variables, we'll just leave them where they're at. Okay, 104 on different sides of the line. You don't need to do the dividing operation. That's the answer. Okay, next. Make your dividing line. You don't have any parentheses, so this is a no multiply problem. Okay, you just have the number 8 on top. You have no variables. And that 8 just has its -3. Okay, circle it. That's negative, so that goes to the opposite side. It does not stay. So the opposite of the top would be to the bottom. And then the -3 switches to a 3. Now, I don't like, if the top is empty in this box, you need to put a 1 there. So I have 1, and well, 1 is 1. 8 to the third would be 8 times 8 times 8, and that equals 512. Okay, next problem. The dividing line's already here. You have a parentheses with a -2 outside. So you do need to do some multiplying. So on top of the line, you have the number 5. On the bottom of the line, you have the number 6. So the 5 is to the 1, so I need to take 1 times -2. Well, that's -2. And the 6 is to the 1, but that's in the circle, so 1 times -2 is -2. Okay, now that's negative, so that goes opposite. That's negative, that goes opposite. Both of them have to switch sides. So the 5, what's the opposite of top? Bottom, and then the -2 switches to a 2. 6 is on bottom, what's the opposite of the bottom? Top. That switches to a 2. Okay, 6 to the second would be 6, and I have these two factors, both of which can be cloned and replaced, so that's 36. And 5 times 5 is 25. Don't do the division operation, that's the answer. Okay, next problem. Make your own dividing line. You don't have any parentheses, so there's no multiply in the problem. Okay, so on top of the line, I have the number 4. That's the only number. These numbers are in circles, so I don't worry about those. I have the variable x, the variable y, and nothing under the line yet. Okay, 4 is to the 1, but I didn't make the circle, so we just put the 1 down. X is to the -6, didn't make the circle, I just put the -6 down. Y is to the third, didn't make the circle, put the 3 down. So I have these 3 factors. 1's positive, so that's a stay. 6 is negative, that's an opposite. 3's positive, that's a stay. Okay, so the ones that stay, keep them where they're at. So 4 to the 1 times y to the third. But the one that's got to go to the opposite of the top's the bottom, and the -6 switches to a 6. Okay, the only thing I can really do is 4 to the 1. That's just 4 times y to the third and x to the 6. Okay, next problem, underline. Okay, And you have a parentheses with a 2 outside, so any power needs to be times by 2 in there. Okay, above your dividing line, we have the number 4. That's the only number I have to worry about. I have the A and I have the B. Don't have anything to worry about underneath yet. So 4 is to the 1, but we got to take 1 times 2. That's 2. A is to the 3rd. I take 3 times 2. That's 6. And B is to the negative 4. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. So that would be stay, stay, and opposite. So the ones that stay, keep them where they're at on the same side. 4 to the 2nd times 8 to the 6th. The opposite, you move, it's on top. The opposite of top's bottom. Negative 8 goes to 8. Okay, now I can clone the 4 to the 2nd, replace that. And that equals 16. So that needs to be replaced with 16 times 8 to the 6th, and then on bottom you got b to the 8. Okay, next page. Dividing lines there. Now the parentheses is just here with a negative 3 here. The 10 is not in the parentheses. So on top of the dividing line we have just the number 10. On bottom we have the number 3. And the variable x, but I put the x down because I didn't have that on top. Okay, so 10 is to the 1, but that's not in the circle, so that will be just to the 1. 3 is to the 1. That's in the circle, so 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. X is to the 1. That's in the circle. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. Okay, so here are my factors. 10 to the 1st is stay. That's negative, so opposite. That's negative, so opposite. Now the one that stays, it just stays on top. We need to leave some room here because what's the opposite of the bottom? The top. And then the negative 3 turns into a positive 3rd power. What's the opposite of the bottom? The top. The negative 3 turns into a positive 3. Okay, now 10 to the 1st would just be 10. 3 to the 3rd needs to be cloned. That's 27. Then x to the 3rd you can't clone. Now since these two factors ended up on top on the same side together, we need to do the multiplication operation. So 10 times 27 is 270. Okay. Next problem. Here's the dividing line, clear to see. By the way, there should be a 2 outside here. I forgot to put it. Put a 2 there, circle it. I forgot to put that. You have a parentheses here with a 2 outside, so just here. All this other stuff here doesn't get multiplied, only things in there. So on top of the dividing line, what factors do I have? Well, I have the factor of the number 4. I also have x. I also have y. You don't put those little bubbled numbers, those are exponents. Now under the line we have a factor x. I already wrote x on top. I don't write it on bottom. Y, I already got that on top. Okay, so let's talk about the 4. 4 would be to the 1. It's in the circle, so 1 times 2 is 2. Now let's do x's. We have 2 x's, though. Let's do the top one first. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. And then this other x is on bottom, so I use the minus operation. And it's just 8. You don't multiply 8 by anything. So I'm going to go negative 6 minus 8, negative 14. Negative 14. And then y. Well, we got y to the 6th, just a 6, not in the circle. Then my other y is on bottom, so I use the minus operator. And then it's negative 4. Now, if it's minus negative, and then a negative number, I prefer to put that negative in parentheses. You don't really have to. But when you do your math, it's 6 minus negative 4, which is 10, because it's like 6 plus 4 when you minus a negative. Okay, so here are my 3 factors. That's positive, so stay. That's negative, so opposite. That's positive, so stay. So the ones that stay on top, let's put them on top. So 4 to the second times y to the 10th. Now this bad boy here, he has to go to the opposite side. He's on top now. The opposite of top is bottom. Negative 14 becomes 14 then. Okay, now over here we look to clone. 4 to the second, 4 times 4, and that's 16. Then the variables just stay in the same place as they are. Okay, next problem. Make your dividing lines not here, so you put it. And you have a parentheses with a negative 3. So any power out of here is times by negative 3. On top of the line, you have the number 5, and you have the letter y. 5 is to the 1. Excuse me. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. Y is to the 1. 1 times negative 3, negative 3. Don't have anything on bottom yet. Okay, that needs opposite because it's negative, and that's opposite. So none of them stay. So what's the opposite of top? Bottom. Negative 3 switches to 3. What's the opposite of top? Bottom. Now, if everything ends up on the bottom, the 1 needs to be on top. Okay, so I'll have 1 on top, and then I can clone 5 times 5 times 5, and that's 125. And then y to the third can't be cloned. Okay, next one's easy. Okay, here's your dividing line. You don't have any parentheses, so that's no multiply problem. The only thing you have on top, you don't have any numbers on top. That's a power, so I don't put that there. It's just a variable y, and I don't need to multiply. It's just negative 2. So that's the only factor I have, and that is opposite. So the opposite of top is bottom. Negative 2 goes to 2. Again, if everything ends up on the bottom, you cover the top with a 1. And I really can't clone a variable, so 1 over y to the second. Okay.